10 seasons ago, Stewart-Haas Racing was on top of the NASCAR world, and now fast forward 10 years later, and the team is going through a complete rebuild. After Kevin Harvick's early playoff departure in 2020, the team was truly never the same. 2021 really marked the beginning of the end for that era. Their best driver, and really team carrier, Kevin Harvick, was never that dominant again. He won just 2 more races in 2022 before calling a quits after the 2023 season. Although it wasn't that big of a difference compared to a season ago, it'll still go down as one of the greatest swan song seasons ever. Usually drivers at this point are well past their prime, but Kevin Harvick showed he still had a lot left in the tank if he decided to continue. After the first 9 races, he could have walked away with 2 victories. A late caution at Phoenix and mechanical failures at Martinsville cost him dearly, but to the team's credit, they persevered, and during the first half of the season, they spent most of that time sitting inside the top 5 in points. Once we reached the second half, they did run into a bit of a wall, but they were still able to maintain a top 10 points position. After the regular season was all said and done, they were able to point their way in to 15th in the playoffs. But once the first round began, it quickly fell apart. Expected to be one of the dark horse contenders, they fizzled out quickly with a first round exit. They almost made up for it with a win at Talladega, but after coming oh so close, he was eventually DNQ'd. Can you imagine if he had won this race? Oh my gosh. Kevin Harvick's final great moments of Stewart-Haas Racing came during the season's finale, where he led a total of 23 laps to the roars of the crowd. He left it all on the track with a 7th place finish, and now will transition as a broadcaster. In his last season, putting Stewart-Haas Racing on his back, Harvick had 6 top 5s, 14 top 10s, and an average finish of 14.7, with an 11th place points finish, marking the end of an era. If you look at the final point standings, it'll show that Chase Briscoe was the lowest amongst Stewart-Haas Racing drivers, but he certainly wasn't the worst. Actually, he was the best of the rest. He was coming off of a sophomore season where he not only scored his first career victory, but nearly made the championship 4. You also have to take into account he's driving the team's flagship car. I know Kevin Harvick made the 4 car famous, but the 14 has been ran in every single season of Stewart-Haas Racing's existence. So how would he fare in his 3rd season? Well, as it turns out, not very good. It was actually a very weird decline, and what I mean is it started off extremely terribly. He was outside of the top 20 in points for most of the first quarter. Then there was a 3-week span from Dirt Bristol to Talladega where he had 3 straight top 5 finishes, and for a little bit, it looked like the team would be okay. Until the death knell. To say Stewart-Haas Racing was just irrelevant during the Coca-Cola 600 would be an understatement. They were off the pace, especially Chase Briscoe, and somehow they rebounded to finish 20th. And while that is bad in and of itself, it gets worse because a few days later, they would be slammed with one of the biggest penalties ever. NASCAR docked Briscoe and the team 120 regular season points as well as 25 playoff points, and also suspended their crew chief for 6 races. While the team said they mistakenly had an illegal part and viewed it as a quality control lapse, regardless of if you believe them or not, it's still embarrassing. After the penalty, the team never recovered, posting just 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s for the rest of the season, and only sat as high as 29th in points for 2 races before ending the season in 30th. 4 top 5s, 8 top 10s, and an average finish of 20.3 are the final numbers, and now entering 2024, he becomes not only the longest tenured driver, but in my opinion, their number 1 driver. Along with Kevin Harvick's final season, Eric Almirola's with Stewart-Haas Racing also marks the end of an era. He may not have been the team's most dominant driver by any means, but he still was at the very least serviceable, with his best season coming in 2018, finishing 5th in points. Him and the team's performance fall-offs didn't begin really until 2021, and then after that season there were talks of retirement. Then he ended up driving in the team's next gen for 2 seasons. And when you look back at his 2023 season, honestly, it's what you'd expect from him at this point. Although the very beginning was surprising, 3 DNFs in the first 5 races. I get Aric Almirola isn't one of the top guys, but I wasn't expecting that bad of a start. While he only had 1 DNF for the rest of the season, he never sat in the top 20 in points. But oddly enough, he had a better average finish than Chase Briscoe, despite not scoring a single top 5 until late August. Almirola's last shining moment with Stewart-Haas Racing came at Martinsville, where he led 66 laps and ended up finishing second. His final stats were 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and an average finish of 19.6 with a 22nd place points finish. They also found some speed in qualifying from time to time, scoring 2 poles on super speedways. 2023 marks Aric Almirola's final season with Stewart-Haas Racing, and now he's set to drive part-time for Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity Series. And now to the one we've all been waiting for.
Oh, and around goes a couple cars. Preece upside down. He's barrel rolling through the grass. Ryan Preece upside down in the infield.
This was common though. I mean, years ago, 15, 20 years ago, these were the type of wrecks we expected to see at Daytona and Talladega. NASCAR has changed a lot of things about these cars to try to keep them on the ground. And for the most part, unless the cars find themselves in these odd situations, it works. That right there looked exactly like what we would see in 1985, in 1990, 1995, the way this car went up in the air and barrel rolled down the back straightaway.
The flip was symbolic of the 41 team's struggles for not just the 23 season, but really the past few years when you think about it. That team is usually the worst performing, and this season was no different. Ryan Preece started off the season with 4 DNFs in the first 9 races, and perhaps he could have saved his season early on with a playoff spot by getting a win at Martinsville. After starting on the pole, he went on to lead 135 laps, but track position came into play later in the race, and worst of all, he finished 15th. Not even a top 10? Man, it's all bad. And it would continue to be bad until the 22nd race at Richmond, where they finally scored a 5th place finish. The second top 10 of the season wouldn't come until the 31st race at Talladega. That's right, just 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s for the entire season, but an average finish of 20.8. So it's not like he was totally off the pace, but when you take away Chase Briscoe's points penalty, Ryan Preece would certainly be the last amongst the Stewart-Haas Racing drivers in points. 2023 marked the first time Stewart-Haas Racing failed to score a single Cup Series victory. So now what? Now for the rebuild. Replacing Kevin Harvick in 2024 will be Josh Berry, as well as his former Junior Motorsports teammate Noah Gragson coming in to replace Aric Almirola, while Chase Briscoe and Ryan Preece stay set. With half the lineup changing, as well as major sponsors Busch and Smithfield leaving the team, fans are assuming Stewart-Haas Racing is going to struggle for a while. But according to them, don't count them out. With all of the criticism SHR was getting, they released a statement addressing the haters and doubters. Tony Stewart promised their fans that they will remind the grid what the DNA of Stewart-Haas Racing is in the upcoming season, saying, "We've seen the doubters and heard all the haters, but anyone who doubts us doesn't really know us. So we're kicking off 2024 reminding everyone who we are, because as racers, we've never lost our ambition. And as a team, we've always stayed true to our DNA." Only time will tell if that statement ages poorly or not, but if worst case scenario happens and all 4 Stewart-Haas Racing cars are just completely off the pace, look on the bright side. At least you have your Xfinity Series team. Anyways, let me know in the comments how you feel about Stewart-Haas Racing's future. Will they rebound in 2024? Is it destined to be a long rebuild? Don't hold back and let me know it all in the comments below. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.
You know, I think the last couple seasons, the performance has been way off from what we've expected and what we strive for. But again, this building's full of racers, and because of that, it gives me hope that we're going to get the ship righted and get back on course. It's not easy, it's never easy, but you know, the last 2 years dealing with a brand new car that we've never seen before and never worked on, has definitely caught us off guard. But when you have a building full of racers like this, there's no better group you'd rather have on your side than them to figure this out and get us going the right direction again.